From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be your host for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicki.
And I'm Jen.
And we've got a guest who's essentially going to be hosting this. It's episode 250. We know it's time. As long as he'll put up with us, we're going to get him every single time. It's Ross Bentley. Welcome back to the podcast, Ross.
Hey, everyone. How are we doing?
We're doing really well.
We are.
So you guys have been racing all over the country, right?
Well, trying.
Yeah, we've been from one end to the other.
Yeah.
We've clocked some tracks.
So how many tracks have you driven this year?
This year?
Yeah, just this year.
4, 5, 6,
2,
7.
okay.
I'm watching math being done here.
I think
Yeah.
I'm at 8 and Vicky's at 7 and Jennifer's at 4.
5.
5.
Yeah.
5. Oh, that's right. You did both New Jerseys. 5.
We didn't really do our big away this year. So,
Yeah.
but it's usually we always do one new track.
We
And
try to do at
sometimes
least
that
one
new
new track a
track-
year. Yeah.
And what was
And
the new
that-
track this year?
For
Mid
me-
Ohio, and Vicky got to do Audubon as well.
Yeah, Jennifer got to do it. Yeah, I did
Mid-Ohio,
Audubon this year.
yeah.
Jennifer's was Mid Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jennifer got to see Mid Ohio for the first time in the rain.
Which
Yeah.
was awful Saturday, but great on Sunday.
Yeah.
To me, there is nothing better than Mid-Ohio in the pouring rain.
I beg to differ.
Yeah.
It is the most variable track. I don't know if that's the right words, but you have to vary your lines, alter your lines at Mid-Ohio in the rain more than anywhere else. And I just love that. You're just searching for grip. I love that part of it. Yeah.
And you know, there was a gentleman who said, you know, if you ever have a chance to drive Mid-Ohio in the rain, don't. And I'm like, but listen, I beg to differ, because if you can master Mid-Ohio in the rain, then you can
Yeah.
master rain anywhere.
I would agree. I agree totally. Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And for sure, people have a love-hate relationship with that. But to me, you have a choice there. You might as well love it.
You know what? You're driving. That's you know, you might as well
How bad
just
can it
enjoy
be?
it.
Yeah.
How bad can it be?
Yeah.
Plus, we got to cross off ice racing off our list. No, we didn't. But
No, we did not yet. No ice racing.
it just felt
yet.
that way.
Yeah.
It's still
So-
in your heart, Bill.
I'm going to get it.
What is
gonna
your
get it.
favorite track now for each of you? I'm curious. Do you have a favorite?
Yes.
And
Pit race.
pit race.
Definitely pit race for Bill.
Pit race is good.
Okay.
I like pit race. I go back and forth.
Yeah.
Between.
I mean, I like pit. We went to Gingerman and I really like Gingerman.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I don't know why that stands out to me. Mid-Ohio, I hated on Saturday, but ended up loving on Sunday, but not all of it, just part of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
So there were certain turns that were so challenging for me on Sat. What was the name of that turn, Bill?
Which one?
The one that you go up the hill, everybody hated.
Madness?
Yes.
Madness, yeah.
Madness.
Yes. Hated that on Saturday. Loved it on Sunday.
Mhm.
So yeah, I love Mid-Ohio for certain reasons, but still the extended straightaway bothered me a bit.
And
I
it was
don't know
pro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine, I had to say Pitt in Mid-Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay. And Jennifer, can I just go back? I'm curious. You said you hated Madness on Saturday and loved it on Sunday. What was the difference, do you think?
Rain
So-
for one. So my struggle with Mid Ohio was not really a driving issue. It was the track was so big and there were so many turns, and I had some issues learning the track. So once I did that, once I felt comfortable on the track and learned the turns, because I really tried beforehand to do that. And I just couldn't, like, I was watching videos and looking at pictures, and I just couldn't like put it together. And it's just one of those tracks I just needed to drive around and around. And you really couldn't drive around and around too much because it was so big, and you're only out there, it was an HPD, so you're only out there for 15, 20 minutes. So,
Right.
you get to go around, 2 or 3 times. And then, so it really took me a long time to learn the track. So yeah, but Sunday was much better. But Madness was a bit challenging, but I just ended up learning how to manipulate it a little bit better, and it just was fun. So yeah.
Well, what's interesting is a lot of times drivers, where they'll struggle with a corner where you can't see the exit when you're entering the corner, like a
Mhm.
corner that has a big hill in the middle of it.
Right.
You drive it for a while, and you go home or you go back to the hotel and you sleep on it, and you come back the next day, and all of a sudden it's sunk in overnight. And
Yeah.
now it's like you approach the corner and you go, oh, I know where I'm going to be on the other side of that hill.
Yep.
I
No,
think
there
we're
was a
also,
big difference.
I'm sorry, Jen, didn't mean to.
No, no.
Yes, you did.
I think for Jennifer also it's because it was a brand new track for her.
Yeah.
And she already went in knowing and hearing about the horrors of Mid Ohio in the rain, and her first day was rain. So she was very apprehensive before she even got on track.
Yeah.
So the lesson there is don't listen to people, right?
Don't listen to people. No.
That's one philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she learned not to stay wide on Madness because bad things happen out wide.
Yeah.
And I think if you do it right, like one time, you get the feeling of it, and you're like, that's it. That's how you're supposed to do it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's really a fun turn when you do it right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to say that Mid Ohio is one of, if not the most challenging tracks in the country,
Mhm.
just because it's so much about searching for grip. It's less about, there are more alternative lines there than there are at just about any other track. And it's just because of where the grip is that day. And even when it's dry, where the grip is from the morning can change to the afternoon.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
so you're just constantly looking for that grip and chasing it. And
Mhm.
that's what I love about it. Because if you drive a track where the line stays exactly the same, it gets pretty boring, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yep.
boring, just driving around, boring. But if it's changing every lap, oh, that's way more fun.
Mhm.
Okay. It's not totally boring, but yeah.
I go searching for, let's try something else. So
Yeah. And maybe it's just that kind of almost ADHD thing going on. Oh, look at that squirrel over there. Let's go chase that for a little while. But that's what makes tracks that I think have more character. Because there are some tracks where, once you have the line is the line. It doesn't change a whole lot. But other tracks that have character, I think, are tracks where you have to adjust the line based on your car, based on the grip, based on the weather, all of these things. So
Mhm.
I love tracks like that.
the turns that have multiple options are always fun too.
Yeah. And Vicki, you'd said your favorites were Pit Race
Pit
and Mid Ohio too?
And Mid Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just there is I think I like Pitt because it has so many variations to it. There's so
Mhm.
many different things that are happening on the track, technical parts and elevations, and it just gives you a lot to choose from, and it's big, it's huge. And I like it for that. And Mid Ohio, I think I like it just for the challenge of it. And because if you do it really well, you know you've done it well. You feel you've done it well. And I think the challenge of it in the rain, like you said, trying to find the grip is it's equally as challenging, but also fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, pit race, as you know, because we spent a little time together this summer there. Unfortunately, not as much time as I would have liked to have, because I would have liked to have eaten more of your food that you so kindly offered to me while I was there. But that weekend, I had not been to pit race for, I don't know what it would have been. It would have been at least 12 years.
Oh, wow.
So it had didn't have that whole new section on it the last time I was there. And yeah, I understand why people love that facility. I mean, it's a way cool track. So
it is pretty cool. I mean,
did you get to go around it all, Ross? Or I know you were kind of like a supermodel in a convention, but you know.
Yeah.
Supermodel at a convention.
Yeah.
He was a rock star that weekend.
He was a rock
Absolutely.
star.
Well, I was busy that weekend and unfortunately didn't get to drive any laps, but did get to do a track walk, and I love track walks.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's
There's
a
something
long
about
one.
there's something about a track walk that just helps you connect with the track. And you know, there's all the sort of the technical part of a track walk, you know, learning where the reference points are and looking at curbs and looking at runoff room and all that kind of stuff, where the grip's going to be. But some of it to me is just, I can walk a track and go, it's me and the track. It's just we're connecting. And I love that. And don't take any offense by this, but I love doing a track walk by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And just for that reason.
That wasn't going to happen to you. Basically, you couldn't go to the bathroom by yourself that weekend.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk about that part though. So yeah.
If that's a different podcast.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with garages.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
So, Mr. Bentley,
Yes.
you made a rather silly offer on our episode number 200. You said, "Hey, if you'll have me back in 50 episodes, why don't I help you get better?" And the girls were like, "Yes, please." So apparently the girls get to go, and Ben and I are sitting there going, "Well, I guess they're going." So we have two subjects here, both of them doing exceptionally well, getting much, much better. Jennifer doesn't get to go quite as much as Vicki, so Vicki's probably just a smidge ahead, but they're somewhat similar. And I have all the data in case you need any answers, and your new pupils, they're yours.
So
I can't do it. They don't listen to me.
I will start with the questions that if anybody calls me up, sends me an email, whatever, and says, "I'd like you to coach me." The very first questions I ask, I have 3 questions. And the very first one is, what are your strengths as a driver? So to each of you, either you can take turns going first here, but that's my first question. And first of all, the coaching, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions and digging into some stuff here, and then give you some tips here and there. But so think about that. What are your strengths? What are you good at?
Traffic.
Traffic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm good at traffic.
And I guess just tell me a little bit more about that. Is that just your awareness of cars around you? Is it your ability to time passes or be passed, that kind of thing? So
I think I'm not intimidated by it at all. And I think that I have a good sense of spatial awareness, to where I know that there's somebody behind me. I know that they're possibly making a pass, and then what to do in that instance, whether I go ahead and give them the space. But every time I go into something, I'm aware of where all the cars are at all the time. And then I judge my racing accordingly. And just at my last race at Thompson, I started using that to my benefit, even though my car was not fast. as it could be. It's a solid B car, but we are racing in all classes. So occasionally I would stuff slower cars or faster cars behind slower cars, and I would follow trains out. So I started actually using a little bit of craft with it. I'm just not intimidated by them. And basically, I keep saying in my head, I pay to be on this track too. So to get over any kind of intimidation, and it forces me to drive further into traffic. So without obviously trying to muscle my way or being a jerk about it, but
So are other racers, are they happy racing with you?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Okay.
I've never had a complaint. I've never been that person.
Yeah.
Because I try not to be that person, but I also don't want to give up a spot if we are able to have it. I'm still aggressive enough in a sense that I am going to race, and I am going to race you, especially if there's a truck. If there's another truck on the track, I call it truck hunting. So I go finding the truck and not worry about anybody else. I'm not there to race a person. I'm there to race a track and try to be on the line. But I also am aware that it is a collaborative effort for all of us to get around the track at the same time.
So where does that come from?
Let me start when she was little. No, Melanie.
I don't know where it comes from. I just think
Were you very cooperative in the schoolyard?
Yes, I would have to say I come from a big family, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
There you go.
We always had the, who was going to get the last, chicken leg sitting on the plate, you got 6 people at the table. So
she's a middle child too. So
yeah.
Okay.
No, but no, there's a certain level of competitiveness to it, but
that's
not
becoming
overly.
more. That's becoming more.
It's starting
too,
to.
Okay. So you're good at timing. I guess there are times where you need to let somebody pass you in a place where it costs you a tenth or two, rather than fighting somebody into a corner and costing you and the other car 2 seconds.
Right.
So you're good at making that judgment.
Right.
Okay, that's excellent, because that's not something that I would say comes naturally to people. But it is that spatial awareness piece, and it's being able to judge that, okay, the rate somebody is catching me or the rate that I'm catching somebody else, you can judge that and go, where am I going to catch that car, or where that car is going to catch me? And so that's something that's.
Well, if there's every time you drive, there occasionally you have a blind spot depending on where you're turning, and sometimes you're fighting for that turn. But if I know that faster car is coming up and they're trying to muscle around on my inside, I know that they're coming. I'm not going to be a jerk and cut them off. And I know that they're faster than me. I will go ahead and let them go. But even though they're in my blind spot, I know that they're there. So I'm trying to move over to let them go. So that's what I mean by that awareness, because sometimes you know that they're there, but you can't see them, but they're there. So
What? I thought cars disappeared. Like, if I can't see them, I just thought they just disappeared.
they're looking for the socks in the dryer.
Yes.
They
They usually send me out on the beginning because
Vicki always goes first.
They always send me out first because it's also about being conservative with your car at the same time. You want to preserve it. So it's just a matter of negotiating traffic at that point, try to figure out how it's going to form. And then looking ahead to try to figure out where the trains are going to start forming to get out of that traffic, which is what I started doing and started learning as I started being that first person out, because everybody goes out as a cluster. So,
in coaching you, one of the things that I would recommend is continue to emphasize that strength. Use it. I think, a lot of drivers, all they do is they focus on where they need to improve. I suck at this and I'm terrible at this and whatever. And I think that if you just do more of what you're good at, sometimes the weaknesses take care of themselves. So, so I think, it's really important that you spend time thinking about imagining, putting yourself in that position and running different scenarios through in your mind and continuing to fine tune that. I mean, you're good at it, but can you get gooder at it?
I can get gooder.
Gooder.
It's like the most fun I think of being on the track is now getting through traffic has become the most fun.
I would agree that driving around on a track by yourself, it is a blast. But driving in a pack of cars and figuring out how to get ahead of that one and not let that one slow you down and just gain advantage of that one, that's more of a blast. So yeah.
I have to develop some what if game questions for traffic for Vicki now. Okay.
Ooh,
That's
cool.
I like traffic. Traffic's fun.
Yeah. How about you, Jennifer? Strength.
So yeah, that's interesting for me because I really don't. I focus more on my weaknesses. Like I could tell you just about every weakness I have, but I struggle with my strength. And Bill usually pulls out the data and tells me. So I think the data. What was it? The one was it the Garmin that showed I did the corners pretty well. It was the straightaways I was really bad at.
Yep.
Which is bizarre, but yeah. And I'm not good in traffic. I let anybody and everybody pass me. So yeah, I'm just completely opposite of Vicki when it comes to that.
So this is very typical of when I ask this question.
Yeah.
I ask, what are your strengths? And you just finished telling me things you need to improve.
Everything. Like I focus on my weaknesses. And I mean, not that I don't want to improve my weaknesses, but like for me to sit here and say what my strengths are, like I struggle with that. Yeah.
Well, what do you enjoy most on the track when you're racing? What part of the track do you enjoy the most? Or what do you enjoy most when you're in the car?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you exactly what I enjoy the most. I think Bill will tell you because he's got the data.
Do you like driving in the S's? Do you like driving the line? Do you feel like you're good at the line?
I like driving the line. I like but I get intimidated and don't get me wrong. I am much less intimidated than I was. Huge improvement with that. But yeah, I mean, I driving the line, I like corners, I like, and Bill will tell you because he's sitting there, me.
Does she need a little prodding, Bill?
What will Bill tell us?
What will Bill tell us?
I would say that I'm very good at slow speed turns.
Okay. There you go.
Okay.
And Jennifer, by the way.
I wonder who that was. So Jennifer.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
What makes those slow speed turns work for you? Like, what do you like about them? Why do they work for you? Why are you strong in those corners?
I don't know why I am. It's just, and that's what we were saying. Like Vicki and I, it's hard to like put a name to it or any specific thing to it. It's just a feeling. Like it just feels right if you hit it right, and it's just I find it challenging to go around a track one time and get it all wrong, and then learn where to turn, where to hit the apex and get it right, and just the feeling you get when you do hit it right. Okay. And that's what I like about it, I guess.
So are you good at braking?
I'm not terrible at braking, but I'm not great at braking.
So you're not the latest braker around?
No.
Okay.
No.
Not including the straightaway, Jen.
Well,
I
lift a lot. I lift a lot, even in the corners, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. So in the slow corners, are you entering the corners with some good speed, or do you think you overslow at times?
No, I think I enter the slow corners with good speed.
And one of the things I'm kind of hearing is the line is something you're really strong at. You're
Yes,
good at
because
reading the
it's been a
lines.
huge focus of mine, because when I started racing, it was more of where can I be on the track to be out of everybody's way, because I was so bad. And I really wasn't even on the line. I just really didn't want to get hit. Like it was that bad. So my main focus has been these past few years being on the line and staying on the line and not being pushed off the line. So, you know, again, like I said, I've had a lot of improvement with that. But yeah, that's kind of.
So what I'm hearing is Jennifer's the nice one.
Yeah.
Vicki,
She's the bully. She's the bully on the playground. No,
yeah,
she's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Vicky's a great driver.
Okay. So this will be easy for you, Jennifer. What are your weaknesses? And
I
actually,
lift.
I hate even talking about their weaknesses. There are areas for improvement. What do you need to improve?
I need to improve my speed, and I need to improve. I lift, and I don't know where my fear and anxiety is, but it is on the straightaways. Like I just have an issue of putting it down and keeping it down and slamming on the brake at the end. Like I don't know where that comes from, but I really struggle with that. I always lift.
So how much of it do you think is actual fear, anxiety, and how much of it is habit? You know, I always say
It's definitely habit, but I mean, because I do it unknowingly, but I also sometimes, you know, I'll go into it like I'm going to do this. Oh, I can't do it.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's part of being human as well. But you know, you do what you do because you're programmed to do so. You probably don't drive up the traffic lights at full throttle and wait to the very, very, very last second and hammer on the brakes, do you?
Right. No.
Like some people do.
Right.
Hey, I'm right here, man.
Yeah. So one of the things that you could actually do though is you could practice this in a safe way on the street. Pretend, and I'm not saying go full throttle up the traffic lights, but as you're coming along on the street, just be aware of where your foot is on the gas pedal and just kind of hold it there. And you're cruising along at whatever, 40 miles an hour, whatever it is, and just hold it there and kind of pretend of I'm waiting for the brake zone, and go boom and move your foot quickly off of the gas pedal onto the brake pedal, and just practice moving your foot quickly and making it one motion as opposed to lift off, coast, now I brake. Because that's what most 99% of people on the street do, right? And again, you don't have to do this at high speed, but just get in the habit of going from throttle to brake as quickly as you can and start building that as a habit. And Vicki, you kind of mentioned at the beginning of this is there are parts of driving that you don't want to think about. Well, when you go out on the track right now, you're probably at times you're having to think, don't lift. You're having to put some brain power into not lifting early. So if you can just start to build that habit or that mental program for doing that, that will make a difference.
That's really good advice, actually. That makes perfect sense.
And of course, if you then spent time doing mental imagery visualization of I'm driving this track, I'm closing my eyes, so starting off, close your eyes, relax, get your body relaxed, breathe, all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, or ideally, you get close to a meditative state, woo-woo stuff. But you then imagine driving the track. And one of the things that you just really, really focus on is just being really clean with the off the throttle, onto the brake, and making that very, very quick. And in your mind, and not just visualizing it, but actually taking your foot while sitting in that comfy chair you're in now, and just boom, boom, as quickly as you can. And then you start to build that program or that habit for doing that. And I have seen people knock like 2 seconds off their best lap time simply by being more efficient with the coming off the throttle and going to the brake pedal.
Like Vicki
I'm
this
definitely
weekend.
going to try that.
Yeah.
So
On my way to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Now, disclaimer here: if you crash your car on the street, I had nothing to do with it.
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing is, and I can't remember whether so I talked to like 800 different people on that pit race weekend. I can't remember if you were around on any of them where I talked about this idea of spending 3% more of the lap at full throttle. Do you remember any of this?
I don't think we were discussing with that.
Okay. Okay. So here's the idea is pick a track. Could be Mid-Ohio, could be Gingerman, could be pit race, but pick a track right now. Which track? Which track do you want to think about?
Mid-Ohio, so we're already got that in our brain.
Okay. So right now, what percentage of the lap are you spending with your foot flat to the floor, absolutely nailed flat to the floor? What percentage of the lap? You ideally you are down the long straightaways.
Mhm.
So just think about that, like in your mind, kind of go, okay, on that straightaway, between one, let's say the front straight, and then between one and the keyhole, and then from down all the way down the back straight, down into turn 4 or 5, up through Madness, maybe not at full throttle, maybe a little bit up through the S's, maybe not, from down into Thunder Valley and through, what is that, 13? 11, the fast left-hander, then into the carousel, and then on the front straight again. What percentage of that lap have you spent with your foot flat to the floor? And by the way, I don't care if you say 5% or 95%. Just what does your gut feeling say?
2%.
2%. Okay.
Was I close, Bill? Okay.
Higher.
And I would be, I would bet money that it's higher than 2%.
In the corners.
It's higher.
Yeah, but so let's pick a number. Let's say 10% of the lap. Okay? So the next time you go on track, I want you to spend 3% more of the lap at full throttle. So
Okay.
I'm not looking for 5% more or 10% more, just 3% more. And you think about where can you do that? Well, you could stay on the throttle longer. You could stay on the throttle at full throttle longer before the brake zones. So if you just stay at full throttle, like half a second longer before you go to the brakes, like you've been practicing on the street and in your mind beforehand, you spend just half a second or a second longer at full throttle before you go to the brakes. And then as you come out of the corner, you're thinking, I got to get back to full throttle, I got to get back to full throttle, I got to get back to full throttle, and I'm full throttle. So you get back to full throttle half a second earlier than you ever did before. And then there are places between corners where our foot gives it some gas, like it starts to push down the gas pedal, but our brain kind of goes, why bother? Like, why bother going all the way to full throttle when half a second later we're going to lift back out of the throttle?
Mm-hmm.
And Mid-Ohio has some great examples of that. You come up over the top of Madness, and there's that tiny little short straightaway before you come down to the right-hander at the bottom of the hill. And many drivers will not go to full throttle there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just go whoop, whoop, like a quick squirt of full throttle there, you're going to spend just a tiny bit more of the lap at full throttle. And if you just focused on if you set an entire session aside that all I'm going to do is spend 3% more of the lap at full throttle, and you just go on track and become aware of that, and you're going, oh, I can get to full throttle there. I can get to full throttle there. I can stay at full throttle there. And you come back in, and I'll bet you anything, you will have quicker lap times, and the smile on your face will have gotten bigger. And maybe, I don't know which order is more important. I think the smile is maybe more important, but then the lap times will be there as well.
Can I just ask a questions related to that?
Yeah.
When you're on Mid-Ohio, and this is strictly a semi-newbie question.
Yep.
How much of that track technically should be full throttle? 100%.
No, God, no.
No.
Well, no.
Impossible.
See, that's the thing is just when we say that, you need to have your foot to the floor all the time, and what constitutes that? Does that mean lowering it to third gear and then doing it, or second gear and then doing it? And then working on your balancing and stuff. Because I know a lot of it's balancing with your gas pedal.
If you left your car in first gear and just put your foot flat to the floor and had it go up against the rev limiter and just go da, 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 you could probably drive all the way around the track with your foot flat to the floor on the rev
Right.
limiter, da, 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 but you'd be slow. So that's not the point. But just picking on Mid Ohio here, it's going to vary a lot depending on the car. If you're driving the answer is always Miata. If you're driving a Miata,
That's right. It is always Miata.
yeah,
They both drive Miatas.
with some stickier tires.
Right.
The amount of time that you spend at full throttle might be higher than if you're driving a Corvette on old tires that are not very sticky, because you can't use all that power. So, but if you just think about it, okay, you come onto the front straightaway. Your foot should be flat to the floor all the way up the front straightaway before you start braking for turn one. Your foot comes off the throttle while you're braking, and then you squeeze back on the throttle. And at some point through turn one, somewhere from the apex towards 2/3 of the way through the corner, your foot finally squeezes down, you're back to full throttle. So now you're at full throttle all the way down the straightaway up into the keyhole before you start braking again. You come off the throttle, you're braking, and then through the middle of the corner, your foot starts to feed back on the throttle, and somewhere again past the apex, somewhere past from the apex on out to the exit point, somewhere in there, your foot's back to full throttle. And it's full throttle all the way down that long straightaway. You go around the right-hander at the end of the back straightaway, and that's one of those little hustle zones where if you're really hustling, your foot can go back to full throttle just between the right-hander and up over Madness.
Right.
And then you come down Madness and it can go and get to full throttle there before you brake for the right-hander. And then up through the S's, it's going to be very dependent on your car. Some cars, you come out of the right-hander and your foot is absolutely flat to the floor all the way through the S's. Some cars can't take that, and you got to breathe the throttle a little bit, but your goal is to always get back to full throttle. And then you brake, you turn in, go down to Thunder Valley, through there, you're at full throttle all the way through there until you get to 11, you brake a little bit, feed back to power, another little squirt of full throttle before you get to the carousel. You brake, and then you start feeding in the power to come through the carousel and back out on the front straightaway. And depending on the car, that could be 40% of the lap. That could be 70% of the lap. And Bill's sitting there going, but I got the data to tell you how much that is.
The data.
Yeah.
Data.
Yeah. So, but the important thing is it's more than the data. It's what your gut tells you. And if your gut says it's 2% or it's 80%, it doesn't really matter. Your goal for the next session is to spend 3% more of the lap at full throttle. And if you set that as a goal, just to go on the track, I'm just going to spend more time with my foot flat to the floor. Anytime I can, I'm going to get back to full throttle and I'm going to try to stay there a little bit longer. You will magically find that your lap time is faster.
Got to squeeze a little more juice out of the orange.
Yeah.
See, that just simplifies it so much. Like it just gives you a whole new perspective.
It is simple. It's the old less brake, more gas.
But we've heard that so many times, but for some reason, the way you explained it, it's just 3%. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
that makes sense.
Anytime that you can, break down what it is you want to do. Because I can say, hey, less brake, more gas. That's a pretty big, huge thing to do.
Right.
Look farther.
But the more you can kind of break that down and go, okay, all I'm going to do is just spend more time focused on keeping my foot on the throttle longer and getting back to that again sooner. That makes a difference. Yeah. So I think we've got a bit of a plan for you. So practicing it on the street. Again, you don't have to be at full throttle, but just being aware of how quickly your foot comes off the gas pedal and goes to the brake pedal. Yeah. Most people and most drivers, many drivers on the track have a bad habit. I say it's bad because it's not good for your lap times. But the habit is lift off the gas, then go to the brakes. And it should be off gas, on brakes as quickly as physically possible. And I have drivers where I have them actually, all they do is they just practice there during the day, sitting there in their office chair or whatever, and all they're doing is taking their foot and going, and just practicing moving their foot from the gas pedal. This is the visual part of the podcast, right? Everyone can see my hand moving here, but it's just moving the foot off the gas pedal into the brake as fast as possible. And if you just practice that, whether you're a right foot braker, if you're a left foot braker, then you know, just doing that. So it's the more you practice that, and again, you can do that on the street without driving like a idiot. Because we don't want to drive like idiots.
No, I know
to
exactly
drive
what
like
you mean.
idiots.
And it's not about coming to a stop. It really is just your foot that you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and just you become more aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start building a habit of it moving quickly to the brake pedal. And then it's one of those things where then you're on the track, and it's not so much about, you don't have to think about it, you just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And will there be some, whether you want to call it anxiety, fear, I like to call it self-preservation. Will self-preservation kick in every now and then? I sure hope so.
Hmm.
You know, for your sake, for my sake, and for everybody that drives on a track. The only thing that stops us from crashing at every single corner is some amount of self-preservation. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can gradually stretch that and move your comfort level further with that, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to be fighting a bad habit at the same time.
But you're right. That's how I drive around town. And, you know, usually it's red light to red light. You're just kind of coasting. And part of that is just muscle memory, you know, just doing it. So it seems, I guess, so unnatural to do it, you know, on the track. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, we got that going for now.
Yes.
So Vicki, what's your weakness? Or let me put it this way. What do you want to improve?
I would like to improve the overbrushing of my brakes, because I think there is a sense of self-preservation. I have a tendency to go into turns when I could probably just push through them. But again, I think that is a little self-preservation. There was an issue that I was having going down the straightaway, but I think we had discussed it at one point when we were at PIT, and it was because I was looking at the panels and not the apex. And I think I fixed that on my last trip to Autobahn, because I just kind of just didn't really focus on trying not to do that. And I did. So yay.
Yeah.
Something I just have to keep working on.
Your times dropped a lot.
Yes. Yes. I stopped. I moved those panels into my peripheral and just focused on the apex, which is, Jennifer, it works. So, but now.
So it's over slowing for corners?
I think so.
Bill's nodding his head.
Yes.
Yeah. I started doing that. So I wouldn't say that it's over slowing. I just think instead of just pushing through on a turn, I would just brush the brakes. And probably I'm trying to catch myself not doing that and try to trust the traction on the tires instead.
Is this slow corners, fast corners, all corners?
All corners, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so if you're approaching a corner that you brake for, and let's use the example of the keyhole at Mid-Ohio, right?
Okay.
You brake, you come up to the corner, you're kind of coming uphill a little bit, you brake, and then you turn in, and what you're saying is that you've overslowed the car a little bit there. Is that?
Well, say for instance, if I'm going uphill and I know that it's a compression situation, where I probably don't need to brake, I would brake.
Well, you do need to brake for keyhole, by the way. I don't care what car you're in.
But say for instance, so yeah, I wouldn't overslow. So I would probably, for that one, brake properly.
Okay.
For like the keyhole, I'm talking about I'm talking about something like the slow turns, like the little kinks in the turns, when I could probably say, okay, I could probably just hit the apex, and which is just like
Like turn 7 at Autobahn.
yeah.
Turn 7 at Autobahn.
The little kink on the back going into the
Yeah, it's like a little
right-handed.
kink. I could probably just go right through that, but I would rush the brakes when I probably wouldn't need to. And
Okay.
I would brush the brakes, say, for instance, knowing that I was going in an uphill where the compression would hold me, and I could still move to that. I think there's just like a little like, oh, it's a turn, I need to brake, or there's an apex there, a little apex, I need to brake, when I think it's habit, and I think maybe a little self-preservation. I'm not trusting the car enough,
Yeah.
and not trusting the traction enough to get through it.
And this
Um,
and this is a challenging one in a couple of different ways. I mean, one of the things is that when you come into a faster corner, like a kink or something like that, what we want to do is we want to leave we're telling ourselves, don't brake, don't brake, don't brake, don't brake. And then we sort of get into the corner, and then we might brush the brake a little bit. So what have we done to the balance of the car?
oh yeah, I know exactly what we've done to the balance of the car.
We've
We just
messed it
kind of
up.
we shoved it right on its nose.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
So you and then the car moves around, and you're convinced, yes, I'm driving at the limit, but you created that limit, right?
Mhm.
So one of the things that I recommend in a faster corner, though, is just make a lift of the throttle way before the corner. And I
Okay.
know that seems like, really? What? Why would I want to do? Just lift off the throttle before the corner, and then as you get to the corner, start squeezing on the power all the way through it.
Okay.
And what you're doing there is you're building a habit of being on throttle going through that corner. So you're building that habit. And at the same time, the car is now balanced, and the car says, give me more. Come on, give me more.
Okay.
And you're going to feel it. You're going to go, car can take it. So then that little lift before the corner becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And depending on the corner and the car and all that stuff, it might be eliminated, or it might just be that you just keep shortening that up a little bit, that little
That's
lift.
a good idea.
So do it early.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, as drivers, we're convinced that braking late is the way to go fast. Not if you're going or approaching a fast corner. Those ones, you're better off doing your speed adjustment early and be on power through the corner. And it doesn't have to be like flat to the floor, but just feeding in some throttle all the way through the corner.
Mhm.
Car is better balanced. It's got more grip. Car says, thank you. Give me more.
Yes.
So the other thing you can do, and there may be a corner where you need to make that speed adjustment bigger. So you do need to give some brake.
Mhm.
And what I would do then is just ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much brake are you giving it? 10 being threshold braking or just getting into the ABS, depending on your car. So maximum braking.
Mhm.
So ask yourself, what pedal am I using here? Am I at a 10, or am I at a 7 pedal, or am I at a 5 pedal, or am I at a 3 pedal? And a 2-3 pedal is a brush of the brakes.
Mhm.
I was having this conversation the other day with somebody, and it was like, so a brush of the brake is like a 1, 2, 3. Maybe a 4 or 5 is a little dab of the brakes, and then there's a little squeeze of the brake is a 6, 7, and then there's a use the brakes. It's your own language, but if you just put a number on it and say, okay, right now I'm using a 7 pedal. Okay, so my goal next lap is a 6 pedal.
Okay.
And there's one side of your brain that's going, well, logically, that's going to make things scarier because I'm going to be going faster. But the other side of your logical brain says, but I'm not braking so hard, so the car is better balanced. It's going to have more overall grip. I'm going to be able to carry that through there.
Mhm.
In fact, I use a 6 pedal, and the car actually feels a little bit more comfortable. And then, well, maybe I'll try a 5 pedal. I'll just give it a little, closer to a brush of the brakes.
Mhm.
And so if you number it and sort of give it, a tag that you can go after, and at least it will help you start reducing the pressure. on the pedal. And there comes a point in time where you're busy being aware of what you're doing with the brakes or with the throttle lift. It's almost like your brain is so busy it doesn't have time to have the fear or self-preservation kick in.
Yeah.
So, but if you come up, I mean, anywhere in life, if you're not thinking about something, if you're not focused on something, it's pretty easy to get focused on, ooh, what bad could happen to me here. But if your brain is busy doing something, and that's why, you know, having a strategy when you go on track of, okay, I'm going to make my speed adjustment early, get on power, I'm really clear, and I've done some mental imagery, practiced it in my mind beforehand, and then you go on track and you're just super aware of that and practicing that. It's almost like your brain doesn't have enough brain power left. Well, mine's totally overloaded by that point, but you almost don't have enough brain left to be worried about what could happen.
Right. Yes.
So there's a couple of strategies depending on the corner. Again, if it's just a corner that requires just a bit of a throttle lift, do it early.
Okay.
And then squeeze back to power. If it's a one that you have to brake on, yes, still, if it's a fast corner, do it early, but then just think about going from a 8 pedal to a 7 pedal, or a 5 pedal to a 4 pedal, or a 3 to a 2 pedal, whatever that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the other part is just the faster I get, the faster it becomes scary. You know, so at that point, I just try to keep trying to make sure that the car is balanced and doing what it needs to do, so I don't end up in a bad situation.
And well, there's another way of looking at it. The faster you go, the more fun it gets.
Yes, it is true.
even that little, you know, that little feeling we get when we're like, ooh,
Yep.
like
the
that.
Belly Hill.
Yeah. Okay. Like eventually you get to a point where you're like, I love that feeling. And I'm sure you've had that experience to some extent, to some level. You've had that experience of, ooh, I like it when it feels a little dicey there.
Yeah.
I like that feeling.
They used to fight having the car get any wiggle. Like that was like forbidden. And now I think they're both starting to get a handle on that and you know, enjoy that a little bit. So it's just baby steps.
Yeah. And for sure it is steps. And you have spent some time on a skid pad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you that was the most valuable thing I think we've ever done.
Yeah.
I mean, on this podcast, I know we said it before, if you can invest in a day at a skid pad, or even just spend your day out in the snow with your car, oh, what a difference it makes.
And tell me why, because I'm curious if you have the same sort of answer that I would.
So it allowed us to realize where the tire limit was, and actually constantly pushing and spinning out was like ripping the Band-Aid off of always worried about spinning out.
It was a day spent being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah. Because, and Vicki, to your point of, you're saying you kind of felt where the tire was losing its lift. Was it a wet skid pad?
Yes.
So it's a very different grip level than a dry corner, right? So you can make the argument that it's not the same.
But see, right afterwards, we hit a little tiny autocross track. So we were able to do it on the dry also.
Okay, cool.
So, but the whole idea is to really get comfortable on maneuvering the back end and what that felt like.
And Bill, I know you want to say something there. Like what else do you get out of that skid pad thing? Practice.
I mean, I think the biggest thing I saw was they weren't afraid that they couldn't catch it after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was always the pause that we were trying to find for when that car snaps back. And now we were able to find it.
And again, some of it is you're building the habit, the programming that when the car steps out, I do this. And car steps up, I do this. And it gets to the point, it's like, I got it. So now when you're on the track, whether it's a wet mid-Ohio or a dry pit race, you're going through the corner and there's just that little bit of confidence in the back of your brain there that says, if it steps out, I got it. I got it.
If you think about it, also the only places that we would ever have been able to really test that or try that with training would be on a track. And that was not the place to learn to figure out where that pause is to get that snap back, because it's just too dangerous, too risky. So having a safe space to do that, somebody explain to us what it is, what it feels like, what we're looking for. Us hopping on the track like a week and a half later we just grew in strides right after that, because now we just weren't afraid. We knew what it felt like.
Yeah. I get to go to a skid pad in a couple weeks, and I just can't wait to do some coaching on skid pad.
Are you going to Lime Rock?
No, going to Thunder Hill.
Oh,
yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah,
I want to go to Thunder Hill.
It's on Bill's bucket list.
I've heard that. Yeah. I'm curious how big Bill's bucket list is.
It's got several sub buckets.
Yeah. Bill's quite a goal-oriented person. So
obviously.
Yes. He's never bored.
Right.
So
actually, I'm curious how goal-oriented are you, Jennifer or Vicki?
I take care of it for him.
Not as goal-oriented as Bill. Bill certainly pushes us along, but not in a bad way, like in a good way, like a very encouraging way. So yeah.
He's that person that says, okay, what are our goals for today? As soon as we show up at a track, what are you guys going to work on? Bill's always been a goal-oriented, yet an instructor type. He's a teacher at heart, and he's always learning.
Ask the questions that you don't ask yourself. So that's right. It's been like, what we wouldn't have known I got to set goals today.
Right. You don't know what you don't know. So
right. Exactly.
I thought I was just going to go out and drive around in circles.
Yeah. And Bill is essentially our team leader, and he leads us very well. So
here's a dangerous question.
Okay.
If Bill could help you be a better driver, what would he need to do? What's the one thing that he could help you with even more? Because I get the feeling that he's helped you a lot, but what else could he do? Because there's always more. There's always something he could do better. Lots of silence here.
No, I really need to give that some thought, because I mean, he's been absolutely amazing. Like, I really need to think about it.
Can you expand on that, Jen?
I just feel like, no, wait a minute, because it has been a learning process for all of us as a team. And Bill kind of knows what needs to get done. Sometimes it doesn't get done. Sometimes the plans that we make all fall apart, but we really take the time afterwards to think about why that happened and to improve on it. So I don't know, like I don't know what he could do, because we're always like trying to improve what went wrong, and you don't know until you know, type thing. So
we always ask what went well,
right,
and then what we can improve after every track. There's always a review, and then we always go in with goals. And
okay, so let me ask another question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say this. The simple answer is I can help Jennifer much more than I can help Vicki.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the dynamics are a little different when you're married to somebody.
Yes. Yeah, it's true. It is true. Very true.
So here's another question then, and Bill, I'd like your answer on this as well. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much pressure do you like to have on yourself to perform at your best? Some people love a lot of pressure on them, And a lot of other people are like, I don't want any pressure on me, and I can more relaxed, and I can perform better. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, I'm just going to put all the pressure, if you mess this up, that's going to destroy us, that kind of pressure, right? And then the other end is, don't worry about it. Just whatever you do. So where do you perform at your best?
10.
Oh, stop. You do not.
No, I would be for you answering that question.
Oh, for me? No.
Yeah.
I'm like an 8.
Okay. So you like some pressure?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
A little bit. I do the pressure myself, so I don't really need any
Mhm.
external.
Yeah.
And that's sort of maybe the total of whether it's external or internal, but just you do your best work, you perform at your best when there's some pressure on.
Sure.
But maybe not to the point of, threaten my life kind of pressure.
What about
He
you,
has
Miss-
high expectations for himself.
Okay.
Always. What about you
How
two?
about
Yeah.
you, Vicki? How about you?
I don't enjoy a whole lot of pressure on me. I would rather have goals,
Mhm.
but if somebody is forcing something down my throat, I have a tendency to pretty easily.
Mhm.
And but I also put those challenges on myself.
Okay.
I think you multiply external pressure.
Yeah.
Like if somebody applies a little to you, you take it and make it huge.
Well, the
Oh.
thing is that I read off of people. So whether it's verbal or not, I can quickly pick up on microaggressions, and the microaggressions are what really kind of set me off. At that point, just have to walk off. It's something that I know I have a problem with.
Well, is that a problem, or is it just the fact that you know it, you work
I
with it?
I know it. And whether there's pressure that's out there that's on me, if there's microaggressions tied to it, then I don't perform well at all. I know
Okay.
this, it depends on how it's delivered. If
Yeah.
it's these are our goals, this is
Yeah.
what we're going to do, these are our challenges, what we want to achieve, that's fine. But
Right.
if it's tied to emotion, then I'm not good. I take it wrong.
So on a scale of 1 to 10,
hmm
what would it be?
Answer the question
I would
now.
s- Yeah, I would say
Put the pressure on.
that
Come on, give me an answer.
I think my pressure would probably be a 5.
Okay.
I would be okay with a 5.
And it is interesting that you made the comment of it depends on how it's applied to, right?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and the reason is that in a long time ago, I was in a very controlling relationship. So I don't like people manipulating or controlling me. And it is a PTSD thing. So it's something that I, to this day, still constantly work through.
Right. Jennifer?
So I'm probably about a 5 too. I don't like a lot of pressure. What I have learned about myself is I also know my limit. So I do need, and I wouldn't call it pressure, I need encouragement. And
Yes.
and I don't feel pressure, but I just, the encouragement's there. Like, you can do this. Those are things that, and I feel Bill gives that. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like when I doubt myself, because I put more pressure on myself than anybody else, but I
Mhm.
also know my limit. Now, early on, I probably did things I probably should not have done and should have said no, which only got me into trouble. But now I know my limit, but I still need some, I won't say pressure. I'll just say encouragement to go with that. Like, I need to have that, somebody standing there saying, like, yes, you can. So-
But that's the nice thing about our team, is that we've been learning super fast. If you think about it, I mean, Bill's already an instructor, first level instructor, but I think that it's because our goal has always been
Mhm.
Yeah.
and not so much competing,
Yeah.
and understanding that it's a process and encouraging and then dissecting after, you know.
And I don't think I've ever gone to any event feeling like I
Mhm.
needed to compete, because it's always me just wanting to get better at what I'm
Mhm.
doing. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's
So
just been the drive.
if Bill put a little bit more pressure on you,
I
you're
don't,
like, come on, really got to knock a half a second off here. We need some laps and, at
Oh yeah.
a
Yeah.
143 or whatever it is, right? Would that help or hurt?
it would probably hurt.
Okay.
Yeah. But and I think that's why it works so well now, is because he really does know when to not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he really does apply just enough that motivates me to get better. And
Mhm.
again, like if you think about where I started, I didn't even know how to drive a stick shift. So
She was literally 5 days,
I honestly,
5
so-
days to learn a stick shift, and she was on the track.
yeah,
Perfect.
right.
Perfect.
So yeah.
So one thing we do, Ross, and we've talked about this a few times, is taking into account the personalities of the team. We try and look at input variables, things that aren't the result, and try and look at things we can do that will lead to the result, but don't
Right.
focus on the result.
Right.
Mhm.
You know,
I mean, because
Yeah.
we all know if we are better drivers, then our position in a race will change. So, that's our focus, is just becoming the best drivers that we can be. And not, I would never compare myself to Bill, because he's way further along than me. I wouldn't even compare myself to Vicki, but, certainly I always go out there and want to improve myself compared to the last time I was on the track last time. Do you know what I mean? So that's always my goal, is I want to be better than the last time I came to a track. So
And that's a lesson that I had a hard time learning. Like, I didn't have a coach, and
Mhm.
I was always super competitive, and I put all the pressure on myself. I didn't need anybody else to put pressure on me, because you couldn't put any more pressure on me than the amount of pressure that I was putting on myself.
Mhm.
And it was all about the results, all about the results. And then I had sort of a big shift, and I learned how valuable that is, focusing on your own performance
Mhm.
and the results kind of taking care of themselves. But I'm currently coaching a driver who has proved to me that that's not the way it is for everybody. I have a
Really?
driver right now who he is so goal oriented. He's the only driver that I'm going to say the only driver that I've worked with in years where I can dangle a lap time in front of him and he will find a way to make it happen.
Wow.
A lot of times that ends up into something really bad, but it doesn't with this guy.
Okay.
He can handle more pressure than anybody I've ever seen. He can get you throw a goal at him. If you said climb a ladder to the moon,
Mhm.
he would find a way to make that work.
Wow. Is he a technical person?
No,
He doesn't go by he goes by feel and not so much technical.
correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's actually been a great learning experience for me to go, because for so many years it was working with drivers who seemed to be that way and getting them to focus more on their performance, and that got the result. Now I've got a guy that I tried that with and it didn't work, and I've had to go back the other way. And it's just, I guess it's reinforced. One of the questions I've been asking people a lot lately is, we just had had a pretty odd year and a half or so, haven't we?
Mhm.
What are the big, huge lessons you've had in the past year or so? And
Oh, that's a good question.
And even where have you had to change your thinking? And this is one of them, where I'm working with a driver who has had me switch the way I'm thinking on that whole performance result thing. And
Wow. Ross got caught off guard.
Ross got rickrolled.
He got Ross got rickrolled.
And yeah, so
That's awesome though.
It's been fantastic. So it's been great to have the experience of having to rethink and the way I do things. It's been
Make things up in Ross world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So let me ask you that question then.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned in the past year? And don't just sort of, break later for turn 4. I mean, but what have you learned in the past year that has been sort of a completely different thing?
Oh,
Jennifer?
So this was the first year that I was able to go on the track and feel comfortable on the track. And I know that sounds really strange for some people because we've been doing it for a few years, but I was comfortable being around other people. I mean, not in like passing them or whatever, because I still let a lot of people pass me, but I wasn't intimidated by cars being around me. And I always was. And that was such a huge breakthrough for me that it just made this season much, much different than any other season that we've had. Like, because I always, I don't want to say it wrong, but in the past few years, like me going on the track created a sort of anxiety, but not in a bad way, but you know, like I was proud that I went out there and I accomplished that, but I was never comfortable with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This year I was comfortable, and it was just an amazing feeling. Like for some reason, I just went out this year and it was just comfortable. Like I was more looking forward to it and viewed it differently. Does that make sense?
How has that changed your programming then? Because there was probably a point in time where your programming was, I'm not comfortable there, and now you are comfortable there.
Mm-hmm.
It's had an impact on the way your self-confidence, your belief in yourself?
Yes, absolutely, 110%.
Had an impact on your whole state of mind?
Yep, it really did. Which
then impacts how you perform or how you behave on the track? Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you, I mean, one of the things that I drove in a WRL race a few weeks ago at VIR, and I had as many problems with drivers who were being too polite as I did who were not polite enough. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I know that's a difficult thing for some drivers to get their head wrapped around, that sometimes you can be too too conservative, too nice.
Yeah.
You know, I use the example of you're driving down the street, following somebody, and there's a pedestrian in the middle of the block who starts to step out, and the car hammers on the brakes to let that pedestrian cross in the middle of the block. That's actually being a little too nice and causes more problems than if the driver just carried on. The pedestrian probably is looked up and said, there's 2 cars coming along here. And if I just time it right, the 2 cars, one in front of me and me, go through, walks across, and everybody's smooth and everybody's quicker getting to where they wanted to be. But by that driver slowing down, hammering on the brakes, we've slowed down. The pedestrian's kind of doing that. Should I go? Should I not go? So that's the same kind of thing on the track, and not being overly polite or conservative or
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big deal. And it sounds like, Vicki, that's not a problem of yours.
Not anymore. I mean, this was the first year where I thought Jennifer was comfortable enough to push her own limit. Mm-hmm. And the up until this point, she had always been trying to get to it. You know what I mean?
So, and I'm going to come back to what have you learned or changed your thinking in the past year, but I want to follow up with Jennifer on average, in most corners, how close are the tires to their limit on a scale of 1 to 10? As you can tell, I love the scales of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5, but on a scale of 1 to 10 is Lewis Hamilton right on the ragged edge. Those tires just keeping the car on the ragged edge. That's the max. How close are your tires to that limit on average? I mean, in some corners, it's probably going to be lower than other corners, but on average, what would you say?
Probably 5.
Okay.
But I feel it's better than it was previously.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So what's stopping you from making that a 6 or a 7?
I think just seat time. Like just being on the track and having the opportunity to feel comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. But like I said, this season really was the first time that I really went out there and wasn't worried about just getting through it, but focusing on what can I do to push myself a little bit more. So yeah.
So it sounds like a breakthrough year.
It really was.
Yeah.
It really was. And I don't know when or how it happened. It just happened. And I know people talk about that all the time, but I wouldn't be able to put it into words. It was just one day I went out there and there it was.
Well, and I've seen that so often with drivers where it's like there's a plateau, and all of a sudden, boom, step.
Yeah.
And then another, plateau, and then another step. And I always say, anytime that you feel like you're on a plateau, great. Because guess what happens after that?
Yeah.
Another step. So another breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Vicki, going back to something you were talking about in terms of your speed and stuff like that, how many times have you heard the old look farther ahead thing, right? A gazillion times. But a lot of times comfort comes from not looking far enough ahead. And Vicki, I think you even mentioned sort of looking to the apex. Well, maybe start looking to the exit and think, I got to get there, get there, get there,
Mm-hmm.
get there. And that's kind of your trigger word. It's just like, I got to get there. And I think that, Jennifer, your overall comfort level, as you get more comfortable,
Mhm.
you tend to kind of, I think that people who are uncomfortable in life walk around looking down at their feet. People who are comfortable and confident, their heads up. So, and I don't know which comes first, right? Is it they put their head up and then they feel more confident because they see the world? And it's the same thing on the track. I think so. Just spending some more time around just doing a session very deliberately of, I'm just going to take a session where I'm just deliberately looking farther ahead and thinking, get there, get there, get there. I got to tell you, so when I went to Indianapolis to go through the rookie orientation before the Indy 500, turning into turn 1 at Indianapolis in the Speedway at 225 miles an hour, yeah, your foot doesn't want to stick to the floor. It wants to lift. And I was driving for Dale Coyne, and Dale grew up in the sort of the cornfields outside of Chicago in Illinois. And he would always talk about how farmers would plant corn. He says they would just look, they'd pick a point on the far end of the field and drive to it with their tractor or whatever it was. And he says, that's the way it is here at the Speedway. When you get to a corner, you need to be looking over there and go, just get there. And your body does everything else to make it happen for you to get there. But if you're kind of caught down in the, I got to do this. Oh, I got to come off the brake here, and I got to turn the wheel, and I got to get on the gas here. It's just a little bit too mechanical. So anyways, another thought, looking farther ahead. So let me go back to my question, Vicki, the question of what has been sort of the big aha moment for you in the past year or so?
My sensory awareness. I'm able to feel the car. Which was kind of huge, because now I can feel the tires, and I can feel when I'm sliding, and I can feel when something's not going well. And that happened at the very end of last year on my very last HPDE. And this was the year when I really started to push it. So now that I can feel everything, now I know when those tires are reaching their max. So I'm starting to get real comfortable with moving the car around and making the tires make noise.
Isn't that cool when you have that feeling that I'm in control, even though it probably feels like it's
Yeah.
out of control, but it's
Mhm.
actually, I'm making it feel out of control.
Yeah. And by doing that, now this is the year when I'm really focused on car balance because I can feel the car.
So did that just happen, or was it a matter of the amount of time you spent in the seat, or was it sort of a deliberate thing you've been working at, or?
I think that it was the amount of seat time that I had, and it was post skid pad. And I just, for all the talking about how, steering the front with your hands and then steering the back with your feet, basically. I think that at just one point when I was at NJMP and I was really trying to push myself and I really started to feel those tires a little bit. And all of a sudden, like everything just kind of clicked. It all just kind of came together. I'm like, oh, that's what they're talking about. And now I actually feel like I could feel it in the seat.
Yeah.
Like they keep saying, and I can feel moving the car with my feet and then steering with my hands. So I'm kind of moving two parts of the car with two different sections now. So that was my big wake up this year. So now it's like I'm really pushing those tires. I am trusting the tires because I know what it feels like now.
Isn't that a wonderful feeling?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Then she went into grass.
Well, had to feel the lemon.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
It's okay.
We've all done it.
Yeah. And we will do it again.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what Jennifer says. I'd do it again.
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
Yeah, that was my. The other one was I'm starting to understand the data now.
Okay.
Because now that I'm actually pushing myself and now I'm understanding, now the data can come in. Before it was meaningless because I just, I was doing so many things. I didn't want to add another thing on top of it until I had these other components out of the way.
Has it gotten to the point with the data where you go on track thinking, I want to draw that throttle trace with my foot? And maybe, Jennifer, this is sort of a bit of a goal for you with the throttle thing, is like, if you look at the data and you see your throttle trace, or if you have throttle trace on your data, do you?
Some of the cars, one of the cars
Okay.
does.
Okay. So
Jennifer's car actually does. She
Okay.
doesn't know it, but
So if you see the throttle trace and it goes along and then it kind of tapers off and then it's off and then it's like, no, I want to draw that line and it's going to go along at this and it's going boom like this because I kept my foot on the throttle right to the brake point. And you get to that point where it's like, I want to go draw those lines on the computer screen with my hands and feet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when data becomes real magic, is when you've calibrated yourself to it and it to you.
Well, I had gone out on Autobahn. Speaking of the line, is that I didn't know the line. This was a new track for me. And this was the first time when I drove it without line assistance. And I still found the line. So that was new.
Yeah.
So I knew where to put the car at this point.
Because you're driving the car close enough to the limit where the car was telling you need to be over here or you need to be over there.
This is where you need to be. And then I had the Garmin in there at the same time. The Garmin was confirming where the car the car will go where it's going to go.
Yeah.
If you drive it right, you're right. It tells you where it wants to be.
Yeah.
So that was a new experience also. That was my brand new aha. So it's like I can do a line now and not have to be told where the line was.
Yeah, that's awesome. Bill, I'm just curious, what was your big learning moment for the past year or so?
I think, I'm going to shock everybody by saying that, I tend to overthink and over prepare. I know. It's a surprise. I see the surprise looks on everybody's face. Unfortunately it's not a video podcast, so keep it down. So I was in HPD 3 with Robin as our instructor, and he told me, and I think it was addressed to the class or a subset of the class. He's like, for this one, I want you to go out there and don't worry about the line. I'd rather have you 100% committed to doing whatever you do than worry about hitting the exact apex, the exact track in, the exact track out, the exact turn in point, the exact break point, and just stop thinking and just be committed to whatever you're doing the whole way around. And I think I dropped like 4 seconds.
Wow.
That is such great advice. And it's something that I understand why, we go through the process of teaching people about the line and where you brake and where you turn in and where you get back to gas, all that kind of stuff. But it can become too mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've talked about this on this podcast before, but
Yep.
there comes a point in time where you got to go, drive, stupid.
Yep.
Turn your brain off and just sense the car, feel the car, and let the car tell you where to be and what to do. And that's when magic really starts to happen.
Yep. So that was where I made my big jump over the last year.
So another quick little coaching strategy that I'll give you if you have the opportunity. And this is one of those things that if you're going to go to a champ car race next weekend, you may not get a chance to do it in the middle of the race. I wouldn't recommend doing it in the middle of the race, but if you got a practice session, and it's really simple, drive the track in a gear taller than you normally would. Mm-hmm. So if there are corners that you go down to 3rd gear or down to 2nd gear, drive them in 4th gear or 3rd gear. So drive the entire track, and you can't even try it, just keep it in 4th gear or 5th gear or something like that for the entire track. And you spend an entire session where your goal is, how quick can I be in that lower gear, or that taller gear, in that taller gear. So I'm coming out of the corner and I'm, the engine feels kind of boggy. So what do I need to do? Can I open my hands and sort of use more track so that I can keep the momentum up on the car? And it is amazing how quick you can go doing that. And then it's often amazing how quick you will go when you then go back to using your regular gears. This is one of those. I do some training for Honda for their R&D engineers, and number of years ago, I get to spend 2 days with 4 engineers, just working on their driving and sort of their mental game and all that stuff, and it's helping them become better test drivers. And it was towards the end of the 2nd day, and we're getting to the point where these drivers had gotten through everything I wanted to do, and I was like, what else am I going to throw at them? Why don't you just go and drive the entire track in 4th gear? And I remember standing there talking to a fellow who runs their driver training program, and we're kind of guessing, going, I don't know, what do you think the lap times are going to be, like 6 seconds slower? Well, they were like 1.5 seconds slower on a pretty tight track. And they all kind of went, wow, that was a really fun exercise. And then I said, okay, now go back and using your regular gears, use 3rd, whatever you need to do. And they on average, they probably knocked about 1 second off of their best lap time.
Wow.
Because they'd learned how to carry the momentum and really kind of open up the radius and just flow more speed through the corner. So it's a regular little exercise that I have for drivers. So the next time you get an opportunity, take a session, and all you do is you drive in a taller gear.
In November.
At New Jersey.
At New Jersey.
And the weather will be nice then, won't it?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. TBD.
Maybe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It'll be the last one of the season.
Yeah.
Unless I can talk you into Road Atlanta.
So I'm curious, what event is that?
We've got a HPDE with NASA Northeast.
Okay. I gotta tell you that NASA event at Pit Race, that was an amazing, awesome event.
Yep.
Well
They
done.
do so well.
Huge entry. I mean, lots of man. I was one point I'm standing there going, like, there's no end to the number of cars coming out of pits here.
Gosh,
No.
I was amazed. I think it was 3 when they're getting ready to start their drills, 3 wide.
Yeah.
3 wide rotation drills. I mean, it is amazing the drills that they put them through.
Yeah.
You should be in the car doing it.
Yeah. I mean, they do such a good job.
Absolutely. It's I don't want to say it's the best because there's somebody who's going to be insulted by that, but if they're not the best, they're certainly one of the very, very best in terms of their whole curriculum around instruction and bringing people up the different levels and the level of instruction, all of that stuff. It's it's a great model. If you're listening to this and you have any kind of a role in sort of the HPDE program, go to a NASA Great Lakes event and just watch what they do.
There's a reason why we drive as far as we do to get there.
And then we just drove 10 hours to get our HPDE weekend in.
Yeah.
It was a bit more than that, and that's one way.
Yeah. that was one way. And it's so worth it. It really is. Every time I come out of them, I just feel like I've learned something that was like a key point. Like I could feel myself leveling up, because after that, then we'll hit either the racetrack or we'll hit local HPDEs and, get our track time in. And yeah.
Do you get the pinball machine or the video game, the ding, 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 when you level up? Do you get that in your head?
That's what it feels like in my head. That's exactly what it's doing.
Better than when you're cursing on the track, so we'll take it.
That's only at the end of the straightaway. Only there.
Okay.
It's a hold on moment. Yes.
So what are your takeaways? What are you going to work on?
Oh, I'm starting tomorrow on my way to work.
Awesome.
All right, Jen, if you're going to show off, then Bill has a question. What are your 1, maybe 2, at most 3 goals for our next HPDE?
Ooh.
Not to lift.
Okay,
is 1.
And
not to lift for 2, and not to lift for 3.
So we're going with the standard ones for recent.
I'm going for the standard ones because I just feel like that's the most important to me right now.
You got to break that habit.
I really need to break that habit.
And it sounds like it is some low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, when she says lift, like Mid-Ohio, she lifts somewhere around the flag station. And that's
right. Like I told you,
really
that
far.
long straightaway is my nemesis because for some reason it was just so natural for me just to lift halfway. It made absolutely no sense.
Right.
No sense whatsoever.
But it's a habit. And then, so will you have data in your car?
Oh, yes, you will.
So you can show what the throttle trace looks like afterwards and do a before and after.
Yep.
And, throughout the event, just trying to spend a little bit more time at full throttle.
Yep.
Yeah.
I may call her on her cell phone and tell her if she lifts.
Yep. That is going to be goal 1, 2, and 3 for that weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Vicki? What's
1 is still continue to work on not lifting. I am going to do the 1 gear higher.
Yeah.
Going to do that. I'm going to still work on rotating the car and look at my exit of the apex also.
Yeah.
So
just get there. Just get there.
Get there. And I'm going to work. Those are going to be the continuation of the not lift, but I'm going to put those other 3 on top of it.
And then if you have a corner that's a fast corner that requires some kind of a speed adjustment, just do it early.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I can't wait to go back out.
Yeah. Let's all go tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where are we going, Ross? Tell me where. We'll be there.
Let's see. Where can we meet tomorrow? We can meet at Pacific Raceway tomorrow.
That's it.
Oh, so
one of us can meet there tomorrow.
Let's ask Ross, what's your favorite track?
the next one I drive.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really great answer.
And actually,
do-
then the next one I drive, short. I mean, I don't know if I might get some laps at Thunder Hill when I'm doing some coaching there, but I doubt it. It's mostly because we're doing some skid pad stuff. But I'm going to do the 24-hour race at Sebring, the WRL 24-hour
Fun.
race.
Ooh.
And it'll be the first 24-hour race ever held at Sebring, which is kind of hard to believe in some ways, but most people go, 24 hours at Sebring? Wow, that's going to be brutal. Yeah, it's going to be great. I love Sebring. I love Sebring, the track. The town of Sebring is another story, but that's for another podcast.
And the sheep.
Yeah.
Very well.
So, what was your biggest aha this season?
Well, I touched on it earlier. Is not every driver needs to be focused on their performance. Some drivers, you just need to dangle a lap time or a result in front of them and say, go to it, make it happen. And so I'd say that was the biggest one. And the second one is around sim racing and the way of using a sim for training. I would just say, and I've used simulators for years as a training tool, but I would say that my ability to use it as a training tool and as a coach has gone up like 8 levels in the past year. So there,
For a while, that was the only thing you could do, right?
well, there was a little bit of that. There was last year I had 2 months of all we did was sim training.
Right.
But then it was back on the road again, and
Yep.
250,000 miles of air travel last year.
Just hard to do considering you weren't allowed to for a while. So yeah.
Yeah, 2.5, and that's so that I couldn't do any air travel for 2.5 months, so I jammed in 250,000 miles in 9.5 months.
Yep.
So it's there was some of that at the very beginning. I don't know if you traveled by air in June, July, even into August last year.
No, we did it right before COVID, but not after.
Yeah, it was really nice for a little while. It was like, wow, I got my private jet finally.
Exactly. And it's a big one.
Yeah, I got there was one time I was in LAX, Los Angeles Airport, on a Friday morning at 9 a.m. and I was standing there and I looked both directions and did not see a single person.
Wow.
It was kind of weird, like, has the world ended?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, kind of almost did in some ways for some.
Kind of did.
Yeah.
So Ross, I have a
Yes.
question. People found out you were coming on. We have one listener question.
Do you only have? Is that you have one listener and they have a question?
I am not confirming or denying. It's
Sorry.
that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine.
That's good.
That's
So the
okay.
question is-
that was a
That
good
was
one.
good.
So they were asking what your thoughts were of breaking down a turn, but doing it from the end of the turn backwards. Is that the way to work your way up to the limit, or is there a better way to get a turn not conquered, but solid and under your belt?
So I guess part of that depends on your definition of breaking it down, but I strongly believe in the know where you're going and just think, I got to get there. Okay, now what do I need to do to get there? So I'm a big believer in that. So if you're not going to be successful at where you begin braking, where you turn into the corner, where you end your braking, where you apex, if you don't know where the exit of the corner is.
Right.
And there are lots of drivers who can sit in a chair at home, close their eyes, and imagine driving a track. But the question is, can you, while you're driving down the straightaway, approaching a corner, can you, in your mind, see the exit of the corner while you're going through the physical part of braking, downshifting, turning into the corner? But in your mind, you're mentally already at the exit. And when you can do that, you're going to be really fast. And this probably relates a little bit to what we were talking about, Vicki, with you looking farther ahead even and thinking about that. It's not just physically looking there, but it's mentally looking there and having that end in sight. And I know there's some, don't know where you're going unless you have the end in sight, or, there's some old saying around that. I can't remember how it goes now, but
Sure.
It certainly applies to driving on a track.
So Vicki and Jen, do you understand the question and how you would go about doing that?
Kind of.
Okay. So Ross, let's pretend that we're using this philosophically. How would you tend to break down a corner that you're coming to a track for the first time, using the backwards to the front approach, I guess? Because I think I know how to do it, but I mean, I could be wrong.
Well, I think the first thing is I kind of go, do you really need to do that? Oh, yeah. Bill likes to analyze and break things down.
Listen, I'm the one listener, man. Don't bust on me.
So I guess, so if it's a track that's new to me, I want to have a picture in my mind of where that corner goes. And, if it's a turn 7, the hairpin at Sebring, which is flat and you can kind of see around the corner when you get close to it, that's a pretty simple thing to do. Different deal at Madness at Mid-Ohio, where you can't see the exit of the corner,
right,
because you're going to go up and over top of a hill. But that's how I would approach it. Is I just want to, every single corner, I want to know where I want the car and me to be when I get to the end of that corner. And then, all I do is think about, okay, how am I going to get there? And yeah, I mean, in the beginning, there is a little bit of, okay, there's this point, and then there's this point, and then there's this point, but I want to blend all that together as quickly as possible.
Sure.
So I'm not super big on where I begin braking. I'm super big on just looking down into the corner and going, I need to start braking now to get the car down to a right speed to turn in here. And for me, the way I approach it is I drive the car to its limits and maybe even a little bit beyond that. And some of that comes with the comfort level of knowing that I can drive a car over the limit and bring it back.
Right.
If you put me in a Formula One car today, not a chance. But most cars I drive these days, I can overdrive them. So I will try to go in just a little bit too deep and a little bit too fast into a corner and get a little messy through the corner. And then I start to clean that up, if that makes any sense. But I find that, kind of to your point earlier, Vicki, is if I drive the car to its limits, it tells me where it wants to be. And then I just start going off of that. And if I'm driving the car at the limit, even if I'm not on the perfect line, I'm going to be fast. And then when I fine tune that driving the car at the limit on the right line, then I'm going to be really fast. And one last thing I think is I'm really big on report cards after every corner. And some corners you can't, just because how busy you are, but I love coming out of a corner and just knowing that if I glance down and see what RPM I'm at, or even just that sound of the engine coming out of that corner, that's a good, I got a good exit out of there. So I'm really focused on coming out of a corner and going, yeah, that was a good exit, or it sounded a little bit slower, I didn't get out of there, or whatever. So every corner I like having some kind of report card, or down a straightaway, when do I pick up the next gear, and when do I what speed am I at when I cross that crack in the pavement, that kind of thing.
Right. So you want to work backwards from your exit and make sure you're hitting your apex, and then increase your speed until you can't, and then you work out the rest of the turn to the beginning of the turn. Does that make sense,
Yes.
ladies? Okay, very well. Ross, you act like you've done this once or twice before.
Well, how many times have I been on this show?
I think this is either 5. Might be 5. It might be 6. I'm not sure. This could be 6. I don't know. I'll find out.
So I guess I've done it before.
Yeah, you
Is
have.
this the only thing I've ever done?
No, I would say not. I think we could go through your accolades quite a bit. So, but we do thank you for helping us celebrate 250.
Awesome. Congratulations. You kicked my butt in the number of podcast contest.
That's okay. Like I said the last time, it is the only race we will ever beat you in. So.
One day, I'm just going to sit at home and I'm going to record like 400 of them and see if I can jump back ahead of you.
Yeah.
It's fine. I know a guy who's more than willing to do the Ross segments again. So you just tell me when you want to kick back up, and we will do that again. That's not a problem.
We're going to do that. So okay.
And thank you for the advice.
Thank you.
That was very helpful.
I have new goals.
My pleasure, and I'm anxious to hear how it goes.
Me too. I mean, I think the thing that is important though is these aren't just items that are specific to Vicki or Jen. I mean, a lot of this can be applied to many other drivers, and the logic and the methodology can be applied to every driver. So,
well, just so you know, I've had this almost the exact same conversations with pro drivers that are racing in IMSA. So it's, I hate to tell you this, but you're not unique.
Yeah. Not that special.
But in a good way, okay? You're not that
Absolutely.
special, but in a good way.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're special to me. That's fine.
Yeah. The things you're working on are the things that many drivers are working on, and to varying levels.
Yep.
But the key thing is, and I think Jennifer, you touched on it, was the focus on learning. It's just so. I mean, that's what I love about what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So, congrats on that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
We have enjoyed your books. We enjoy your weekly newsletter. We enjoy your podcast when you come back to it every now and then.
Yeah. Well, thanks, and feel like it's time for a big group hug virtually, right?
It does.
We can't wait to run into you again.
Yeah.
We would have hugged you at pit race, but we couldn't get around all your flock of fans. So it was.
Plus, I'm not sure we're into the hugging quite.
Yeah, that's true.
We're not quite there yet.
Post
but
plague.
close.
Well,
Yeah.
I think we gave you at least a freezy pop and maybe some food. So
Yeah. I had one meal that weekend, thanks to you guys. So but yeah, so hopefully I'll see you guys at another event. And in the meantime, keep learning and having fun, and let me know how it goes.
We will.
It is fun.
Great.
It is
Thank
so
you.
much fun.
As
Thank
always, we
you.
appreciate all your help, Ross. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, you cut out on me there.
Oh, sorry.
Click out.
The if then game that's sweeping the world. What did you think?
That was
It's
awesome.
terrible. It's terrible. Do you know what the if then game is? Is that we work so hard to have that stuff become second nature so we can start working on other things. So when I have to go back and think about exactly what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing to call it what it is. I'm just doing it.
Interesting.
Yeah, because we've worked so hard to not have to think about our shifting and not have to think about our braking. So we're just, doing it in the moment. Now we have to go back and talk about it. We're just like, wait a minute. So
It has a name.
Yeah, right.
Well, after listening to it, I would blame the game show host.
I would too. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, because I'm not sure he made it clear enough as to what you guys were supposed to be doing there. So
That's fine.
yeah.
Get in line, Ross, if you're going to blame me on this podcast.
Yeah. Actually, it was very entertaining though. Well done.
Don't worry. That's the first of many. We've got
Yeah.
three more at least.